In war, battles are not always won with bullets or bombs, sometimes they are won with lies, illusions, and carefully crafted deception, and in 1944, the fate of Europe depended not only on soldiers landing on beaches, but on convincing the enemy to look in the wrong direction, because if Nazi Germany discovered the truth, the invasion of Europe could end in catastrophe. By 1944, the Allies were preparing the most dangerous operation of the war, the invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe. Millions of men, thousands of ships, aircraft, tanks, and vehicles were being assembled, but one mistake, one correct guess by German intelligence, could lead to total annihilation. This is the story of Operation Fortitude, the most elaborate military deception ever created, a plan so convincing that it fooled Hitler himself, kept entire German armies frozen in place, and helped decide the outcome of World War II. To understand why deception became so critical, we must go back to November 1943, when Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin met in Tehran. There, the Allied leaders agreed that a second front in Western Europe was no longer optional, it was essential. Normandy was chosen as the primary landing site for Operation Overlord, planned for June 1944. But there was a problem. Everyone knew the invasion would happen somewhere along the northern coast of France, and German defenses were massive. The key question was where. From the German perspective, the most logical landing site was Pas de Calais. It was the closest point to England, had wide beaches, direct routes into Germany, and immense strategic value, because it also protected launch sites for V weapons aimed at Britain. As a result, Pas de Calais was heavily fortified and defended by the powerful German 15th Army. Normandy, by comparison, seemed less obvious, but that was exactly why it was chosen. However, surprise alone was not enough. The Allies needed the Germans not just to guess wrong, but to remain convinced they were wrong even after the invasion had begun. This idea was summed up perfectly by Winston Churchill, who famously said, in wartime, "Truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies." That quote gave its name to Operation Bodyguard, the overall Allied deception strategy for D-Day, and at the heart of Bodyguard was Operation Fortitude. Operation Fortitude had one primary objective: convince Nazi Germany that the main Allied invasion would not land in Normandy, but at Pas de Calais, and if possible, convince them that any landing in Normandy was merely a diversion. To achieve this, the Allies built an army that did not exist. They called it the First United States Army Group, or FUSAG, a massive force supposedly assembling in southeast England, facing directly toward Pas de Calais. On paper, FUSAG included hundreds of thousands of troops, armored divisions, landing craft, and air support. In reality, it was almost entirely fake. Across the fields of Kent and Sussex, inflatable tanks made of rubber were deployed, wooden aircraft were placed on fake airfields, dummy landing craft lined the coast, entire camps were built with empty tents, fake headquarters, and fabricated supply depots. From the ground, the illusion was weak, but from the air, it looked real, and German reconnaissance aircraft were watching. To reinforce the illusion, the Allies created constant fake radio traffic, simulated conversations, logistics reports, troop movements, all designed to sound authentic. German signal intelligence picked it all up and carefully logged it. But deception alone was not enough. The illusion needed a commander. So the Allies gave FUSAG to the man the Germans feared the most, General George S. Patton. Patton was aggressive, famous, unpredictable, and highly respected by German intelligence. His presence in southeast England convinced the Germans that this was the main invasion force, because they believed Patton would lead the decisive blow. In truth, Patton had no role in the Normandy landings at all. As D-Day approached, the deception grew even bolder. A captured German general, Hans Kramer, was released in a prisoner exchange and deliberately shown what appeared to be massive invasion preparations near Pas de Calais, unaware that he was actually far from the real invasion forces. When he returned to Germany, he confidently reported exactly what the Allies wanted the Germans to believe. Meanwhile, deception was also unfolding in the north. Under Fortitude North, the Allies created a fake British Fourth Army in Scotland, complete with radio traffic and decoy equipment, all to suggest an invasion of Norway. This forced Hitler to keep large numbers of troops stationed far from France, weakening German defenses even further. But the most powerful weapon of deception was human. British intelligence had captured or turned nearly every German spy operating in the United Kingdom. Through the double-cross system, these agents were transformed into double agents, feeding Berlin carefully crafted misinformation. The most famous of them all was Juan Pujol Garcia, code-named Garbo. Garbo invented an entire network of fictional sub-agents, sending detailed reports that convinced German intelligence he was their most valuable source, so valuable that the Nazis awarded him the Iron Cross. On June 6, 1944, as Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, Garbo sent his most important message, telling the Germans that the Normandy landings were a diversion, and that the real invasion would strike Pas de Calais within days. Hitler believed him. As a result, German reinforcements that could have crushed the Allied beachheads were held back, waiting for an invasion that never came. Allied intelligence knew the deception was working, because they were reading German messages in real time. British codebreakers had cracked the Enigma encryption system, and the intelligence gathered from these decrypts, known as Ultra, confirmed that the German High Command remained convinced Pas de Calais was the true target. Even Japanese diplomatic messages intercepted by the Allies revealed Hitler's unwavering belief that the main attack was still coming across the Strait of Dover. The deception extended into the skies. The Allies bombed Pas de Calais far more heavily than Normandy, reinforcing the illusion, and during the night of June 5 to 6, Operation Titanic dropped hundreds of fake parachutists across northern France, accompanied by real soldiers playing recorded battle sounds, drawing German units away from the real landing zones. Radar deception added another layer. Strips of aluminum foil were dropped to create phantom invasion fleets on German radar screens, all pointing toward Pas de Calais. The result was extraordinary. For weeks after D-Day, the German 15th Army remained largely immobile, waiting for Patton and Fusag to arrive, even as the real Allied forces pushed deeper into Normandy. By the time the Germans realized the truth, it was too late. The beachheads were secure, the Allies had broken out of Normandy, Paris would soon be liberated, and the road to Germany was open. Operation Fortitude did not win the war on its own, but without it, Operation Overlord might have failed completely. It stands as one of the greatest examples of strategic deception in human history, proving that in war, belief can be as powerful as firepower, and that sometimes, the most devastating weapon is not an explosion, but a lie the enemy cannot stop believing.